Alright, I'm back. So, it crashed again. Trying to do 1080p on Rise of the Tomb Raider. So that's like 3 games now where it crashed. 1440p, it's over. The card is getting very hot on some of the games. To the point where I can barely touch the plate in the back. So I'm going to take a little break from that, and I'm done with the benchmarks for the 590. So we got the Freesync working with this monitor with the RX 590, I guess. Of course, the card didn't run stable, so I don't know if it was or wasn't running well with the monitor, but as far as I could tell, it was working. So here I'm just going to tell you what happened. I put in the card, the RTX 2070. Okay, it's an EVGA, basic edition. It's a black edition with the LED lighting. It's got a DisplayPort cable hooked up to it because Gsync won't work without it. So fired up the computer, and you know, my panel here comes up automatically. This is the app that LG wants you to download, and you can just kind of like mess around with this junk if you need multiple windows. You know, brightness, contrast, you know, preloaded color settings. I already went over this with you, and then of course, you know, Freesync enabled. Just put it on basic or extended, or off if you don't want it for some reason. And then response time, faster, fast, normal. I just put it on fastest. And then this is just your, basically your, you know, how deep your blacks are. So I just kind of have it like 50% for now. I mean, I could always change it later. So as soon as I fired up the computer, sorry about my camera being off. I can't get it to, the cord's short, so I can't really put it in the center where I want it. So I'm good when I sit back, but when I get up close, I'm kind of offset here. So basically, let me just show you my specs here. You can't, over here doesn't matter. So I got the RTX 2070 in. It's the base clock is 1410, and the boost is at 1965. This is my RAM frequency. It's at 2666. My processor's clocked at 4,500 megahertz. Not sure why this says 15,000. I wonder if that's just multiple ones. I'm still trying to figure out what this column is for. So the CPU is at 65, or that's the max. Minimum is 25. GPU is minimum 31, max 63. This kind of records it. Current is at 55. That's because I got the 2070 overclocked a little bit. Excuse me, I have had a long day, so I'm sorry about making that noise. Alright, so let me close this. So as soon as I basically opened up the NVIDIA control panel by right-clicking and clicking this came up. And this was already checked. It was on this mode here. It was already here, checked here, enable Gsync, Gsync compatible, and enable for full screen. That was it. I didn't have to do anything really. All I did was change the enable for windowed or full screen mode, just because I'm always minimizing windows, so I don't want it to like black out and then come back. It'll just be seamless, I think, if you do it that way. And then I went into the 3D settings and you know, enabled all the DSR factors so that I can go all the way up to, you know, whatever, 5K resolutions or something like that. I think, let me see. yeah, you can go all the way up to 5120 by 2880 when you enable all of them. So yeah, let's see here. So that's it, really. Yeah, so that was pretty easy peasy. And I know it works because we're gonna open up a game here, and I'll show you in the graphical settings if my video's not in the way. So let's see, video. So here you can see I'm using the RTX 2070, and you already saw it's a FreeSync monitor. I have it set at 1440 right now, and here's the refresh rate, 144, 60, 75, 120, 144. So there you go. And then the graphics settings are quality settings. Everything's pretty much on high and ultra. So let's run this and see if how it looks. I'm gonna run. Let's see. It crashed on Wildlands and Rise of the Tomb Raider for sure. I didn't get a chance to get the Shadow of the Tomb Raider with the RX 590, and nor did I get to this one. So this is 1440p at ultra settings. See any screen tearing at this moment in time. It looks kind of bright though. It looks a little too bright to me. I mean, I don't know how it looks in the video because sometimes the video will be different. So, yeah, I don't really know how you can tell how stable it is. I mean, these lines are always like all over the place anyway, you know. But 67 frames per second at 1440, that's pretty solid. Okay, so I'm back. You can see I got different clothes on. That's because it's a different time, different day. I forgot to put the 1080p Far Cry Primal in here, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. And I'm probably gonna do a couple more game videos than I was planning, so you're gonna kind of see me in different clothes back and forth. So yeah, it's not you going crazy. It's just me editing this video in such an insane fashion. I mean, everything's legitimate, but it's just at different time periods, and I organized it separately so that it goes in a specific order and all that stuff. So anyway, to Far Cry Primal, everything was pretty much the same as before. We got the Gsync running, and it's registering the 144. Quality settings, everything's still very high. Motion blur off, so I'm going to change this to 1080p. And we're going to see how high we can get these frame rates. Even while running the recording software. I don't know why it's blinking. Still looks very bright. So maybe I gotta check the color settings maybe in the benchmark. So average is 73 frames per second, so not very, not as high as I thought it was going to be. So we'll have to tweak some settings and see if we can get this baby up to 144 on high settings. Let me just make sure that it did change. Yeah, it did change. And you can see it's got the GeForce RTX 2070. HD textures on, which I don't even know why that exists. I mean, when they make the game, it should just be good, you know. So let's check out some of these things here. So it's on SMAA, so we could put it on FXAA and see if that changes anything. The fog, I mean, we could turn that down a little bit, I guess. I don't know. Environment is on high. All that should stay. Geometry should stay on ultra. Shadows are on ultra. Textures very high. You turn the shadow to very high and see if that works. Let me just do something real quick. Let me just put that there. Whoa. Okay, and just turn this back up again. Just to see if it makes sure that it, you know, everything kind of went in. Where is it? FXAA, good. Shadows very high. Okay, good. Let's try that and see if that does anything to make this run at 144 on 1080p and still look good, you know. Personally, I think just this game is just rough. I don't think this is the kind of game where you're going to get 144 frames per second. It still looks good. You know, it's not really much different. I mean, I guess the FXAA is not as, you know, it's good when you're looking straight on, but when you're looking at angles, I guess it's a little more, you can see the jaggedy edges a little more. But, yeah, I mean, it's 72 frames per second. It's really weird, like, okay. So, I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. Huh, maybe because I got VSync off? I don't really understand. Let's turn on VSync and see what happens. I mean, I don't know. Let's see what... Maybe the HD textures are what's messing it up. I don't know. Maybe that's only for like 1080p users. Let's run this baby again with the VSync on and see what happens. Doesn't look like it's any different. Still the same, 78 frames, 79, and then the 80s in the end. I mean, it's just as smooth as it was before. 71. Keep getting the same. Alright, let's go back up to 1440 on FXAA and see what happens. Because that's the native. I mean, again, I don't know if that's going to make a difference. I mean, an RTX 2070 is for the most part a little faster than a GTX 1080. So it's not a weak card by any means. I mean, a 1080 was pretty strong. So the RTX 2070 definitely beats the GTX 1080. So yeah. So let's keep VSync going. I don't really know what I can change on the video side of things. I mean, I could let's check the graphics quality again. What if we put it on high? What does that change? I mean, everything's still on high. Pretty much. Whoa. I mean, let's try it on high and see if that bumps up the frame rates at all. I mean, funny thing is it it could be just in my head, but it actually looks better. For some reason, I don't know why. But that just could be because I've been looking at this now, what, 4 times? So my brain's just filling in the blanks. So yeah, for some reason, man, this game is just like, won't really go too much higher. 76 frames per second, still the same. Now that's very good at 1440. I mean, I'm definitely satisfied with that number. So I don't know. I don't think the CPU is bottlenecking it. I mean, it's a 4.5 gigahertz. I got it set at 4.5 gigahertz, and the boost clock is higher, I believe. So, I mean, how much lower can we go? I mean, 720? You know, should I just try it? Let's see if we can get this thing up to 144 frames per second. I haven't played 720 game in like many years. Yeah, so no matter what you do, it's running at 60 some frames per second. 70, 80. So it's got to be CPU. This has got to be more of a CPU bound game. Than a GPU bound game. I mean, it has to be. I mean, you're getting the same exact frame rates basically at every resolution, so. I mean, it's a little bit higher, but not much. Yeah, 79 frames per second, so yeah, so that's really strange, huh? So this has to be CPU bound. I mean, the RTX 2070 has to be able to push higher frames than that. Excuse me. Really weird. So, yeah, there's really nothing you can change. I mean, I can try putting it up to 4K. I mean, let's see what that does. Wow, it looks beautiful. Definitely looks better at the higher resolutions. But I mean, look at it, it's still running at 56 frames per second. 58. Yeah, I gotta run this on my 2080 Ti and see what kind of frame rates I get. Just out of curiosity. So at 4K, 55 frames per second, so that's not bad. And that's at high settings though, don't forget. So yeah, so I guess it's kind of CPU bound, I'm guessing. Because I mean, this is pretty nice frame rates, you know, at all resolutions. They're not like super high, but this is 4K, and it ran smooth on the monitor too, so that was nice. I didn't see any kind of like strange anomalies. Alright, so off to the next game. Alright, so yeah, I just wanted to show you my temperatures again, RTX 2070. So here, running the Cry Primal, right now it's dropping down. It was at like 50, whatever it was when I started the video. It's at 52 now, and it got up to 71 with a boost clock of 1980 during Cry Primal. So, yeah. So, Rise of the Tomb Raider should give it a workout as well. And I'm going to go through the different resolutions on that too, and then try to tweak it and see if we can, how high we can get the frame rates up. Okay. Let's do Rise of the Tomb Raider. Let's see how that runs. See if that crashes while it's recording. Now this is a stronger video card, but still. I mean, at least this will tell me if it was the monitor that was the problem, which I never heard of a monitor crashing anything, to be honest with you. So it's already on DirectX 12, SSA 4 times. We'll check the settings again once I start it up. You know, I'm just kind of doing this just to show if it runs stable, if there's any crash issues, how the colors and stuff look, if the game looks good or not. You know, I might need to tweak some color settings somewhere, so, you know. Let me see. So right now it's at very high. Everything should be the same as it was for the RX 590. Display, DirectX 12, RTX 2070, 1440 here. It's working here too, 144. I got the anti-aliasing. This really hurts the performance a lot. So this is off. So let's just run the benchmark here while it's recording, and we'll see if it runs stable or not. Now this is at 1440. We just want to see if we see any kind of anomalies, flickering or anything like that. I mean, so far, I mean, it looks okay. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, it was a little grainy there for a second, but I think that was just because it was taking a frame rate hit. But I mean, Laura looks good there. The waterfalls look good. This isn't really fast moving. There is some like white lines on the concrete there, stone, I should say. Not sure how to get rid of that, but I don't see it too much here. So it's running at 34 frames per second. I'll run at the 1080p as well, just to see like if we can get how high of frame rates we can get here on a 2070. Obviously on a 1080 Ti, you know, you're gonna hit the max probably. So 43 frames per second at 1440. So now this monitor prefers you to run it at the native resolution. Otherwise, I don't know, it doesn't like it. But I'm gonna run it at 1080. At the SA 4x, which still is bad on 1080 too. Takes a pretty big hit. So again, we'll see if we see any anomalies. So it's running at 109 right now. 120. It always takes a nice dip here for some reason. I guess because of all the particle effects and the clothing, the hair. But surprisingly, man, this game is pretty rough still. 57 frames per second here. Yeah, things are not so crisp. See, I think it's better to go higher resolution with these kinds of monitors because they don't look as good when you lower the resolution. Alright, I'm back again in my different clothes. So this is a later video of me, whereas the previous two benchmarks were a couple days ago. So yeah, so I'm redoing the this part because I didn't really do it correctly before. It's not going to change the results or anything. It was just like, I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, I have a better way to try to see how this thing's working, that's all. So we did the 1440 and 1080 at the, higher graphical settings. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the FXAA on. Excuse me, wrong one. I'm going to put it down to FXAA. Now, techniques to reduce pixel artifacts on edges. Selecting anything higher than FXAA will incur a large negative performance impact. So, we'll put it on FXAA. I'm going to keep the VSync off for now. Okay, I'm going to run FXAA first, and then I'm going to try it with VSync, and I'm going to see how all those, you know what I mean? How they all vary, because we saw how far Cry Primal was. It didn't really change the results that much from 1080 to 1440, but when you went up to 4K, dropped the frame rates down a little bit, but they still were very reasonable. So, who knows? So, we're going to tweak these graphics. What I'm going to do is turn this down to... man, we got to keep it looking really nice still. So I'm going to turn this down to high. I'm going to keep the anisotropics filter up because I don't think that really is... The video cards, it doesn't take much to do that anymore, I don't think. Depth of field is just on, so that's okay. Specular reflective quality, and you definitely want dynamic foliage, so those on high. Bloom I'm shutting off. Motion blur shutting off. So film grain is off. So this should run a lot better. And still look very good. So let's see what kind of frame rates we get here. Alright. So here we go. And then what we'll do is we'll bump it down to 1080 and see how that works. Right now it's saying 160, 145, and it always dips down though after this. I mean, it still looks good, and taking off that bloom, man, it definitely looks better. That bloom really makes it look worse, I think. Yeah, this looks very nice. Very, very nice. This is a nice monitor, man. I mean, I'm happy with it. I don't really, you know, I don't have a lot of monitors to compare to. Laura looks good there. She's clear. The waterfalls look nice. You know? I wish they had a couple different benchmarks instead of the same old scenes over and over again. Yeah. So this looks good. It doesn't look bad. I might even be able to do the other anti-aliasing at ×1. Who knows? I mean, FXAA should be good for 1440 because, you know, the pixels are pretty small. Look at that. Ooh, baby. 112. So where did it go from? 60 something? So almost, well, not quite double, but pretty good amount. You know? 40 frames per second better. Wow. Alright. And it still looked good on the monitor. So, I mean, even here, this looks good. So let's try 1080p and see if we can push those frame rates more with this game. And that was DirectX 12 also, so it didn't really need the VSync on there, and it was running smooth. So let's check out the benchmark on 1080. See if we can even get them even higher. .215 frames per second. .224, 217, 200, 164, 122. I should have turned the game music down. Keep forgetting. I mean, you know, it's not as crisp as the 1440, but it still looks very nice. It's at 118 there, and here it's like 110. I mean, it doesn't look as good. I think I'd rather do it in 1440. Definitely go with the 1440. Because really, overall, the frame rates really aren't much different. 140, so it was 112 at 1440, so you know, I mean, if you can tolerate the little hit in the graphical fidelity, it's noticeable. So, me, I wouldn't play this at 1080. Definitely 1440. Alrighty, so let's see, what else could we do? I mean, I can try bumping it back up to I mean, there really isn't anything else here to turn up except for level of detail. Let's see it change. It's not like live. No. So I don't really know if that's going to make a difference. Vignette blur, I don't think we need that either. So there really isn't anything else here, just turn up the level of detail. I mean, texture quality. Even if you turn this down to 8 times, we could try that. And we can turn this back up to 1440. I don't think, I wonder what happens if we put it on SMAA 1 times. So this, let's check this out and see what happens. At 1440, let's see what we get for benchmarks. Now it's getting a little hot now. I mean, the card's working. So she looks very good there. Very, very good. 143 frames per second, 139, 120. 95, 88, 79, 74, 75, so it's not really going below 74. But it looks good, very good. Running at 82 frames per second. I mean, it looks very nice. 84, 92. So I would say that that's probably the best setting to put it on if you want decent frame rates. 89 frames per second at 1440. So that looked very good. My processor's just heating up. So that's probably what's making a little stutter there. Alright, one last thing here. I know I'm doing a lot. I'm going to try to put it on Vsync and just to see what happens. So I don't think you really need this when you have Gsync on. No, let's just try it and see what happens. Just to see if it's any better. If not, then just keep it off. That's all I gotta say. So let's try that. I don't know if that interferes with Gsync or, if it's like pretty much not activated when Gsync is on. I mean, the frame rates out here are good. For the most part. Takes the normal little dip here down to about 75. But it's very smooth. I don't see any like anomalies or anything. I mean, it's staying at a pretty steady frame rate in the upper 80s, low 90s. .18, there you go. So it's the same as without Vsync on, so go figure. Let me check the video card temperature right now. So 6059 is cooling off right now. So it was up to 74 degrees with the Rise of the Tomb Raider. So yeah. So it was pushing it pretty good there. 1980 megahertz was the max, the boost clock speed, and the processor. Let's see where that thing went. Maximum 7,113 megahertz. I think I need to change something in the settings because it definitely shouldn't be going that high. But you see in here the temperatures got up into the 60s, so that's not, you know, destruction, but that's, you know, that's working them when they get up, you know, when you start getting to 60 degrees and higher. Yeah, the motherboard too, see? It was getting up into the 70s there. That's kind of warm. Alright, so let's try the 1080p with the VSync on. Okay, so we're back. So I got it down to 1080, SMAA, triple buffered VSync. And then the graphics were, you know, tweaked to the very high. It was on high, and then I bumped up level, detail, texture, and then lowered the anisotropic filter. Which again, I don't think that really is going to bother it much. So the bloom, vignette blur, and motion blur is off. And remember, I am recording while I'm doing this, so the frame rates would be a little higher, you know, and it probably won't be, you know, heating up as much either. So, I mean, I'm not worried about that. You can always tweak the. I have it over the card overclocked, so it's gonna get a little warmer than normal on the just from sitting. So here we go, 1080p at the tweak settings. $195, 180, 209, 206, 202. Yeah, so I mean it's very smooth. Takes a little dip here, but only down to about 115. See a little bit of jaggedies, but not a whole lot, but they're there if you look carefully. But it's running smooth, 117. I don't see any screen tearing or anything like that, no like major jittery things going on. But again, I still think I would rather play it at 1440. But everything looks good. You know, the colors look good. $132 versus, you know, 89. So yeah, I think I'd rather still play at 89 frames per second at 1440 and just get that extra fidelity, you know? I mean, this is definitely good if you're playing a first-person shooter, like a competitive game. You know, 132 is awesome. But this game is just too, you know, it's just too intense to be getting 244 frames per second. I mean, there really isn't a whole lot of games out there that you're really going to get 144 frames per second unless you turn the settings down to like low or medium. And you know, me personally, I can't do that. All my games have to look good, you know, graphically. I can't play any games that look crappy. So alright, so since we did the Wildlands for the RX 590, we're going to go ahead and look at that game. And I'm going to see if I can get that up to like, you know, 144 frames per second, if I can. I doubt it, but we'll play with the settings on that one, low, medium, you know, that kind of thing. And just see how, if we can actually get over 200 frames per second in Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is, whew, that's a rough game. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright. We are back. Ghost Recon Wildlands. Alright, it's already at 1440, 144 hertz. We're going to turn Gsync off. Frame limits off. Graphics. Let's turn them on Ultra. Let's turn them on very high. Very high will work. We'll do the HBAO. I don't know what. Let's see the difference here. Interesting. A lot more blacks. I'll leave it at SSBC for now. Draw distance high, texture quality. Let's put that on ultra. Yeah, we want that to look really nice. Yeah, we want that to look nice too. So everything else, turf effects. Let's put that up. Motion blur off. Iron sights off. Not that that matters right now. Bloom off. And that's it. So let's apply. Let's check this. Oop. Sorry. Make sure all that's stuck. Looks like it. Yep. Alright, so let's run this benchmark, man. It's only using 3,920 VRAM, so that's not much. I mean, I could definitely go higher. But let's see what it does. Let's see what it looks like with this. If it looks really nice, then, you know, there's no point in turning it up higher. The only thing that I might turn up is that dark crevice effect, ambient occlusion, or whatever it's called, or I don't know. I can't think right now. My brain's shutting down. That's a really nice looking picture right there, though. '80, 69 frames, 70 frames per second. VRAM 4,180. Alright, so 71 frames per second. At 1440, that's not bad. Let's tweak it a little bit and see what happens. Yeah, so the RX 590, man, I guess that thing just got cooked. Cooked, man. So let's see what temporal does. $4180 with temporal, 4175 with that. So it's only like I don't understand that. Might as well stick with temporal. Turn this up. Draw distance, level of detail. Oh, that's quite different, I think. Yeah, let's turn that up and see what happens. And I got plenty of RAM, VRAM. Alright, let's try this and see what happens. Alrighty, so we're still at 1440. Let's see if it looks better now. Make sure I got everything stuck. Yep, looks like it. Alright, so let's see what if this looks any better. Oh yeah, well, it does look better. The darker, I think the shading and the higher texture detail, or yeah, detail or whatever that was. Yeah, definitely looks better. Tweaking those couple settings. It's still only using 4,203 megabytes of VRAM, and that's not bad. .62 frames per second. I'll take it. At 1440. Let's try 1080p Ultra and see what that does, or how it looks. But yeah, these settings right here definitely are, if you want the best looking over 60 frames per second, then this is definitely the settings to go with. Alright, so we're gonna do Ultra. Make sure everything's turned up here. Turn off the, still gonna turn off motion blur. Just because I just do not like that. And iron sight's off. It's still off. Bloom. Off. Alright. Apply. And then I'm going to change it to 1080. Apply. We're going to see if this looks any different now. See the VRAM here, 4,765. So, is it worth taking a? Is it worth it? You know, we'll see. I think the native resolution always looks better, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, see, there's just something about it that just looks grainy, like slightly blurry. Just not as crisp. Yeah, it just doesn't look as good. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Definitely doesn't look as good. And safe to say, it's not even running as good. .63, see, so it's just about the same. And that's on Ultra, and it doesn't even look as good. So yeah, definitely take the 1440 and just tweak your own settings. So there you have it. You want to run it at native. Alright, so we're back in Ghost Recon. So our goal right now is to try to make use of this monitor. Okay? 144 hertz it can run at. So whether it's 1080p or 1440, you know, what does it take to do that? I really don't think that you're going to be able to get 144 frames per second or even 100 frames per second in really any of the low-end cards playing at any kind of decent settings. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start off at Ultra. We're at Ultra right now. I'm at 1440. Okay, so that's where we're starting. We're going to do the 1440 first, and then we're going to do the 1080. Now I already kind of went through this a little bit. I made a video and then it got corrupted, so now I have to do it all over again. Hopefully this time it'll work. Okay, so basically what you have to do is to get near 100, okay, you're going to have to turn this down to low, okay, first. And then you're going to have to kind of work your way up. So, yes, that's very scary. It scared me too, but it'll get better, trust me. So first thing you want to, you have to have anti-aliasing. You just can't not have that off. Okay? I mean, if you like anything about graphics, you got to keep that on. Ambient occlusion, you can put it on this SSBC, or I don't really think, if you got an NVIDIA card, I think you can do the HBAO, because it's not, it's 20 megabytes worth of processing power, so you could probably put it on HBAO. But just for the sake of, you know, Radeon cards, we're just going to use the SSBC, okay? Draw distance is low, level of detail, for now keep it on low. Texture quality, you know, that's a tough one, because you know, that's, you can probably put that on high. Anisotropic, you can probably go max 8. Shadow quality, put it up at least medium. Terrain quality, you can put on high. Vegetation, you can put on high. Turf effects, you can keep off. Motion blur off. Iron sight off. I like the depth of field, so I'm turning that on. Bloom off. God rays on the first step. That's the second step. So if you like any kind of like shiny from the sun, keep it on. Subsurface scattering, I don't think you need that on. Lens flare, you can keep on. And long range shadows, I don't think you need that on. So this is what we have it on. So it started out at low. We're doing FXAA, SSBC, high texture quality, anisotropic 8, shadow quality medium, terrain quality high, vegetation high. Okay? So we're going to apply that. Check to make sure we're at the 1440. And you can see that we're using 3078. You know, you can go lower, okay, if you turn down this terrain quality, but it's not that much lower, right? Shadow quality, again, from medium to off is not much, and anisotropic doesn't really change anything. I don't even know if you really need to turn that down, but for now we're gonna see what this does for us. Okay, we want to keep at least the game looking, you know, decent. So let's run the benchmark at these settings. So this is like, say, I don't know how to even classify it. It's like on medium, I guess you could say it's medium. I mean, I turned up all the most important things. Texture, terrain, vegetation. I mean, and then have some shadowing. So it's like, I guess you could say this is the technical medium. But, you know, technically, oh, God rays should be on here. You know, I would say this is like medium high. Because draw distance is not that important unless, like, I don't really know how far it's going to be, like, dealing with that, you know? You know, if you really need to see something across the city, I mean, you use your scope, right? I guess. I mean, yeah, I guess if you're in a helicopter looking down like this, you want to see all the little people. But just for, like, that's just mainly for eye candy. Because if you go if you go draw distance, they don't really have any people in here. They just got some objects that show up. So you could probably get away with medium because it's only 10 more megabytes per second on draw distance. And you might even see level detail goes from like low to high. So, but that doesn't even change much. Say 3086. So again, I probably could even turn these up to medium. So I don't know what you would call this. I guess medium plus. So let's try this and see what happens. So it's medium to high, I guess you could say. But you don't need the draw distance. I mean, if that's going to get you some frame rates, then I would just turn that down. Again, we're trying to achieve 100 frames per second or more. Okay, so right here, we're already at 80 something, so that's pretty high. You know, the game looks pretty good. The anti-aliasing isn't perfect, but it's okay. You know, the textures look pretty good at 1440. Had some frame drops there with the explosions. So this is going to be probably average 80s. Yeah, 89.13. So that's pretty freaking good. You know, and the game looked pretty good. You know, it didn't look fantastic like Ultra, but I mean that's quite a bump. You know, so 89.13. So I don't. It's going to be tough to get it at 100 frames per second at 1440. But we'll try one more tweak just to see if it really makes a big difference. Alright, so let's turn the draw distance down and level detail to low and see if that really matters. Texture quality. What a difference, man. Jesus. Look at that. Ugh. It's like melted. So let's keep this, let's put this on, let's put that on medium. That's off for shadows. You gotta have shadows on, otherwise it's just not gonna. Vegetation. I like the terrain quality. Let's turn the vegetation to low. And then turn turf effects up. Because they don't really change much. So, yeah, let's try that. Now let's see what we got. Apply. Alright, so that's a little bit of tweak, but we got a little bit of grass back. Draw distance, level detail low. So let's, and this is again on at 1440p. So let's see if we can break at least the 90 frames per second. That's interesting. Still the same. So the turf probably kept it low. I mean, it still looks good, but it's really not far into the 90s there. It's not even getting to 100 here. Steady though. Went down there for a moment though. So it might break 90, but I don't think so. It didn't quite go high enough. So it didn't really change much there. 89, yeah, it's still the same. So it didn't really change much. Maybe turning up the turf effects kept it down. Alright, hello. I don't know why my camera's so dark. Weird. Anyway, so now we're gonna try 1080p. Try to see if we can get it up to 100 frames per second. So right now I started out at Ultra. We already saw the results for that, which wasn't really much different than 1440p. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go down to medium. I'm busy. So let's see. So medium, it's at 2351. Alright, so we don't need long range shadows. That much I can tell you. We don't need subsurface scattering. Guide rays we can put on. Bloom we can turn off. Depth of field we can turn on. Motion blur we can turn off. Turf effects. We can probably turn those on. Terrain quality is high, low, and that's it. I say keep it on high. Shadows on medium. Texture quality high. Level of detail, I'll say texture quality medium. And draw distance medium. So what's anisotropic filtering 8. So let's try this first. So we got this kind of like on medium high, sort of. Okay, I guess you could say that. Medium high. So let's, and again that's at 1080p. So let's go ahead and try that. Let's benchmark this and see how it looks, and if we can break that 100 frames per second. I mean, it'll still look okay. This game is just beautiful no matter what, really. It's a very good looking game even on low settings, but you know, I wouldn't want to play it on low settings. That's just me. And I don't know why my camera is so dark. I got my light on in here, but that's not even helping. So I'm not sure what's happening there. So it's at 100 frames right here. So we might have hit the sweet spot right off the bat. So it's kind of going between 100 and 95. And the game doesn't look terrible. I mean, it looks good. You know, there's some things here and there that, you know, the anti-aliasing could be better, but it still looks pretty good. It's running pretty consistently over 100, except for just here and there. It's going down, as you can see. 106.4. Look at that. Just made it. At medium high, I guess you could say. So there's one setting I'm going to change though and see how it affects it. I'm going to put on that temporal anti-aliasing. Just to see. It's at 2346 on FXAA and 2351, so it's barely like. So let's just see how that works. Because if you can turn that on 1440 as well, it should have the same exact performance impact, so it shouldn't be any different, I don't think. So let's benchmark the 1080p with temporal, which is supposed to be better. See? If you look at the fence. Kind of zooming in, so let's keep on temporal here. Let's try that and see if we can still get 100 frames per second. Because I mean, if you're gonna buy a 144 hertz monitor, you might as well, you know, try to get at least, you know, make it worth it. Otherwise, you might as well just play at 60 frames per second. You know. 60 hertz monitor. So it's just under 100 here. Just under 100. So the average is only going to go up from this area here, which goes well over 100. So yeah, it definitely looks a little better. The anti-aliasing is a little better. So we might still be safe using the temporal. TAA, I guess it's called TAA, I guess. Ooh, there you go, 104. So just 4 frames lower, I think it was. So there you go, at 1080. So let me run this in 1440p, and then we're gonna move on to the Division 2. All right, so we're on temporal for the 1440, and it's using 2,577 megabytes of VRAM. Yeah. So let's just check that again. Let's see if there's any difference here and what we get for frame rates here. Now we can turn the turf effects off. We had them on before. Well, we can let's turn them on and turn this on low for the 1440p. Or, yeah. Now let's turn the turf off. So it's 2577. So temporal's on, ambient, draw distance medium, level detail we can put on. Draw distance we can probably turn on low for 1440. Texture quality, I hate turning that down, I really do. But we'll go with medium. God rays will turn down one step. Alright, let's apply. Let's run the benchmark and see where we're at there. So we're in the 80s right now, which is pretty much where we were before. 90 there. It did hit 90 for a moment. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Definitely pretty good. We're in the 90s here, so that's pretty good. Everything looks really good, better than 1080p, that's for sure. That's fine. So it dropped to 74 right there, it always does at 1440. So this is pretty good settings right here. for 1440. If you want to try to get as close to 100 as possible. So yeah, so that temporal anti-aliasing, you know, you can turn that on. It looks good. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the best you're gonna get is 87 to 89 frames per second. You can go lower and get into the 90s, but you're gonna sacrifice more fidelity. Even, I mean, if you want to just stay like near 80, you can even bump up a couple more settings. So yeah, that's it. So we achieved 100 at 1080p. So you know, and near 100 with 1440 and making the game look still pretty good. So that's not bad. That's probably the best you're gonna get without dropping it down the low. So yeah, I don't think we want to do that. Okay, so just to show you again the video card here, the temperature right now is 52. During the Ghost Recon Wildlands, it looks like the max temperature went up to 70. So that's not too bad. And the max turbo on the CPU went up to 5,476. Probably briefly. A little hotter though, up in the 70s here. So Ghost Recon's is definitely a game that's much worse. Of course, I do like the voltage here now on the processor, 1.25. It's not bad. Yeah, so that's not bad. So we're keeping the temperature down a little lower, and the boost clock is still looks like it's going up to about 1950. I don't know why it just keeps Rise of the Tomb Raider here. I'm not sure. I don't know why that's doesn't change. This software I don't think is perfect. So anyway, that's where we're at on that. Yeah, definitely don't want to run on the 1080p. There's no sense in doing that. I mean, buy a 1080p 144 monitor if that's what you want to do. If you buy a 1440p 144, then that's what you want to run it at. If you buy a 4K Gsync monitor, then you want to run it at 4K. You know, people say turn it down and turn up the settings, but I don't know. Maybe it works from 4K to 1440, but it definitely doesn't work from 1440 to 1080p. I mean, I just proved that in 3 games. So I don't know what people are thinking saying that on YouTube. Like I said, you might be able to do it from 4K to 1440 because, you know, once you get to 1440, that's pretty good, you know. Pretty clear. Alright, so we have 144 full screen. Let's go to quality. Everything's on ultra. Motion blur is off. Good. Color. Not gonna mess with that. V-Sync's off. Adaptive resolution. Yeah, we want that off. Oops. So this is Far Cry New Dawn, obviously. So 4.59 gigs of VRAM is allotted for this setting. So let's test this out and see how it does. And then we'll do 1080p. Let's see which looks better. Now keep in mind that I'm recording right now, so it's gonna take a few frames per second hit. You know, so you know, you could tack about 3 to 5 frames per second maybe on the end result. But as you can see, you know, it's pretty cartoony, this game, I think, though. Much more than the other one. But, you know, it looks decent. I mean, quite impressed actually. Yeah, they definitely optimize this compared to the regular Far Cry 5. Takes a little bit of a drop here, but not much. I mean, it's still in the 60s, 70s, 80s. She got hit in the head. No, I can't see. So here it says average is 75. I don't know if you can see that or not. I can see it because my camera is translucent a little bit. So at 1440p, 75 frames per second average, low 55, high 103. I mean, do you really want to go to 1080? I mean, why would you want to do that? You know, 75 frames per second is fine. But if you really need to go, let's turn it down. Anyway, let's test 1080 and see how it looks. Probably not much different, because this game's kind of, you know, like I said, it's more cartoony looking, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider. See, it's a little blurry. See the plants there, and the people are, I don't know, they look kind of strange. They got a weird outline to them. Yeah, it really isn't worth it to me to go down to 1080. I mean, just to get more frame rates. I mean, as long as it was smooth, then see, it's just not as crisp. Now, if you're playing like a competitive shooter, I guess, you know, obviously, I guess you're going to want to just get the maximum frame rates. But, you know, that all depends on what kind of card you have, too, so. But, again, this is a 1440p monitor. You don't want to run it. So here it said 75, or 78, so that's not even much difference. Minimum 57, maximum 116, so I mean, it went from 75 to 78, so that's not really, it really didn't help too much. I mean, the minimums were higher and the maximums were higher, so you know, whatever, bump this up to like low 80s. I don't know, to me that's not worth it. I'd rather stick with the 1440 and have a nice, crispy, clear picture. Okay. I'm in my other clothes now. It's a couple days later. Alright, so we're going to try to achieve 100 frames per second on this. At 1440 and 1080, so we can make good use of this 144 Hz monitor. So right now we are at 1440, quality is on Ultra. We don't need any of this junk, it doesn't really change much. This kind of bumped it up a little bit. I'm not sure why. But we can turn that on if you want. Don't turn the adaptive on because that kind of reduces resolution when needed. I don't know if I want to do that. Maybe a competitive gamer would want to do that, but I don't want to do that. So let's try this frame rate lock. I tried it on another game and it seemed to bump up the frame rates by a couple. So let's see if that works again. Why is it in window mode? Oh, full screen. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and bump this down to high. Let's try high. It's pretty much the same as Far Cry 5, so when I'm going to be doing that one after this one, so you'll... Definitely want the vegetation to be good. See, it seems like they did better with the environment thing here. The other one, you couldn't really tell where they made a difference. I don't really see how the fog is changing very much. I don't think that's going to matter. I mean, normal. Doesn't look any different to me. So let's try high and see how many frame rates we get at 1440 first. Let's see how that changes, if it changes much. And then with the locked frame rates too. Let's see what happens. I mean, if it doesn't really change much, we'll turn it down to a little bit more. I imagine this should bump up the frame rates by at least 10 from what it was before. These new games, they do work the graphics cards. Maybe not Far Cry as much, but man, Ghost Recon, phew. That's a video card killer. So it still looks fairly good. Not as crisp, but looks pretty good at 1440 with the TAA on. So 86 frames per second. (4,675 megabytes of VRAM. So, what can we change to get that to 90? Take off this lock. I mean, although it says locks maximum, it is recommended to use frame lock to achieve stable performance and input responsiveness. So, yeah, why not? Alright, so what can we turn down here that would bump us up? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to really lower the graphics quality because that's just... Could turn the texture filtering down to normal. Excuse me. I love vegetation. So you don't have reflections in the environment. The water's not really going to matter too much. So the terrain see the mountains in the background doing something, but let's keep that on normal. I think that's what it was on anyway. The fog will turn down to normal. I don't know, I don't really know what I would want to turn down. Shadows? I mean, we can put them on normal. Let's put them on normal and see what happens. That's really all I could think of. Let's try that. I mean, you know, I would love to just drop it down to low and get 144 or whatever, but that's just not going to satisfy me. Yeah, it still seems like it's running about the same. It might achieve 90 frames per second here, maybe. On average, anyway. And the game still looks good, even with those shadows turned down and whatnot. This part here is still pretty rough. Yeah, we're just missing it. Look at that. Yeah, this part's just killing it. Yeah, so I guess 87. I mean, that's really the lowest I would go. I wouldn't turn the graphics down any more than that. So I guess the best at 1440 with this card anyway that I have in here, which is a RTX 2070. You know, that's as powerful as a GTX 1080, more powerful. So you ain't gonna get these kind of frame rates with a I would say not even with a Vega 56. Unless it's like, you know, highly overclocked. Unless this game runs better on Radeon cards, I don't know that. So, you know, maybe a Vega 56. But yeah, I don't think you're gonna get. I don't think any of the RX 90, 590, RX 590 or lower. I don't think you're gonna be able to do this at 1440. And maybe even a Vega 56 will be struggling. But anyway, that's besides the point. So let's go to 1080 and see what we can achieve with that. See if we can get 100 frames per second. So now we're going to go to 1080p. Apply. We're going to go to high. We're going to go down from ultra to high and see what that gives us. And I'm going to lock the frame. Oh, I did lock the frame rates the last one. So we're going to do this locked frame rate thing and see what happens with this. That's it. Easy peasy. See how it does it high. At 1080, I think it should break 100. Be surprised if it doesn't. Huh. Wow. That's crazy. Okay, so it went way up here. So if it does get to 100, this is what did it right there. So that's kind of skewed. Yeah, even out here, it doesn't matter what you do. It's like just totally kills the frame rates. This whole situation out here. so 92. That's it. I was sure it was going to break 100. Alright, so let's see what we can tweak to try to get it over 100. I mean, the only thing I can think of is the shadows again. I mean, shadows, turn them down. Fog, turn that down. I mean, I don't really want to do much different than I did with the 1440. Otherwise, you're just pretty much you're running at the same settings, really. Yeah, so let's try that and see what happens. See if that improves anything. And remember, we are recording, so you can add a few frame rates at the end. But yeah, this is just brutal, man. It seems like these games run better at higher resolutions for some reason. Or these video cards or something, I don't know. Weird. Yeah, I don't think it's going to change it very much. Up there for a second. Yeah, there you get it. 91. Crazy. Insane. I guess, you know, the card I don't know if the card's at its limit or, you know, if the CPU is bottlenecking it or, you know, I mean, CPU's running at 4.6 gigahertz, so, I mean, that's pretty high. I mean, if we turn it down to normal, you know, oh, you know, I was saying graphics quality earlier. Duh. I mean, let's try normal and see what happens. I'll try it at 1440 too. And see if it's how much of a difference it is, you know? Because right there, that wasn't much difference between the two. I just don't think these benchmarks are always, like, reliable. You know? Because, I mean, look, it's basically the same place it was at before, so, I mean, it's like, okay. It's not even worth turning down the settings, really. You got a couple frames more, that's it. So is it really worth turning down from high to normal just to get, you know, 5 frame rates or 4 frame rates? 3 frame, well, 3 in this case, but again, I'm recording, so, you know, it's crazy. Let me just just out of curiosity, just do 1440. Just see what that goes. Probably going to be about the same as the 1080p. I mean, it's pretty much the same as the Far Cry test, really. I mean, Far Cry is probably a little bit more, you know, graphically intensive, I guess, than this one. This isn't a bad looking game. Now it's dropping here quite a bit, so it's probably going to end up in the high 80s. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, 89. So 89 frames per second, so you're not that much further from on high. So I wouldn't even bother. I would just play it at high or ultra and just go with the better graphics and still have a good frame rate. Alrighty, so that's Far Cry New Dawn. Trying to get 100, but it's just not going to happen unless you turn it like on low, and I don't really think anybody wants to do that. I don't know how people play competitive games like looking like crap. I couldn't do it, even if I was good. My games just have to look good. Alright, so Far Cry's next. Alright, so we're going to go to the next one, which would be Far Cry 5. Let's check that one out, and then we'll end on the Division. Now I'm doing these benchmarks just to show that it's not crashing like the RX 590 was. I mean, man, that was just horrible. I mean, AMD, man. Everybody was like saying they're much better now, but that was just a terrible experience. I mean, Jesus. I don't think I've ever had that much problem with a NVIDIA card. I mean, and that's not good because I just came from... The reason why I switched to NVIDIA before was because I had problems with the Radeon cards. And then of course NVIDIA brought out a decent card with the, 8000 series or whatever. So... yeah. And 9000 series. But I bought some Radeon cards after that, and man, they both died on me. You know, and then there was one that just didn't run very good. So I just kind of like got away from AMD altogether and just stuck with NVIDIA. And never really had a problem with any card that I can recall. I'll try to think of one, but I think the only problem I had with the card was a low profile. That's just because I was probably gaming with it when I shouldn't have been. So, yeah. So this obviously is not on 1440. I noticed that immediately. Because like I said, the blur, it's very obvious. Okay, so... Alright, so we're at 1440. It's on Ultra. Let's stick with TAA. water. Oh, that's as high as you can go. Alright, so everything's on ultra, it looks like. Vsync, let's turn that off. Let's just do it off at first and then see what happens. Alright, I think we're good here. Whoops. Keep doing it. So we're at 1440, 144, ultra. Okay, good. Let's do this. See how it looks in 1440p. I don't have Metro Exodus or Anthem or Battlefield 5, so I can't test those out with ray tracing or anything like that. Okay, so 1440 at the graphics quality of Ultra, it's running at 77 frames per second, so that's crazy. Pretty good. 65 minimum, 96 maximum, so that's within a good range. So let's go ahead and see about 1080p. My water cooler's going nutsy again. Oh, I wanted to check that maximum first. Where is that? So that's back. Let's see what this thing here means. Locked frame rates to 144. Let's see what that does. I don't really know if that's just like a ceiling, or if that's like gonna try to really achieve that and work the card to death. Alright, let's go ahead and start this. We're gonna try the locked frame rates and see what happens. I forgot about the music in the game, so I won't be talking during the benchmark. Okay, so the average is 80. 80 frames per second, 63 minimum, 95 maximum, so that's interesting. Huh. But it says it lowers the resolution to try to achieve this, so I don't know if I really want that. I think I'd rather just it be what it is. Excuse me. So let's turn that off. Oh, that's a dynamic. I'm sorry. This, okay, that doesn't really affect the resolution, actually. This does. Sorry, I'm tired. Alright, let's turn this down to 1080p so we can get the heck out of here. I'm just trying to be thorough. That's why I'm just taking this, doing all this, so that you guys can see, you know, that this monitor is good. I mean, it's doing its job. I mean, I don't know. I haven't had any anomalies, so there really hasn't been any major stutters, except for when there's scene changes, which I think that's just normal. Okay. So minimum 67, average 83, maximum 107, so it really isn't a big difference, you know? when you put it on ultra, you know, you're really not losing that much. And again, this is when I'm recording too, so I mean, it's only going to do better in 1440 if you're just playing and not recording. So yeah, so why would you there's no reason to lower the resolution. It's not really going to benefit you that much, you know, especially in a game like this because it's very graphically intensive. Alright, I'm back now in my other clothes. This is a couple days later. Back in Far Cry 5, we're going to see if we can get 100 frames per second. In fact, we're going to try for 144. So first we're going to go to 1440, which we're already in. Everything's on ultra, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this down to normal. It's kind of funny they call it normal. Wow. So actually, normal doesn't look too bad, does it? So that's really all they give us. They don't give us much more than that, do they? I mean, it's already on TAA, so... And it's only 10 megabytes less. 4.49 versus 4.59. That's interesting. Probably should turn the water up, let's see. I'll keep the water on high. Wow, that looks quite different. Yeah, so normal. Shadows we could probably turn up. Texture filter. I don't know what that does exactly. Let's turn shadows down then, since we turned the filtering up. Water looks pretty good, but I like nice looking water. I mean, I don't see where the difference is there too much. Alright, let's try this. See what the frame rates are. I don't think it's going to change much because I think this is CPU bound. This game, more CPU intensive, but I'm not sure. Okay, well, we got 90 frames per second, so that's probably the highest you're going to be able to go without really sacrificing any more graphical fidelity. I wouldn't go any lower than that. So it looks like on 1440 the highest you're going to get is 90 probably. At least that's my assessment anyway, you know. So, let's see, 1440, yeah, I really don't know what else you could shut down. I mean, I don't think the water's really affecting it that much. I mean, the texture detail isn't changing the VRAM requirements at all. The shadows, I mean, if you look at the shadows, the way they're changing, they're not really... that complex. I mean, low kind of looks wonky, but you know, there really isn't a whole lot of difference there. So you could probably even keep these two on ultra. Yeah, I wouldn't go any lower than that though. So I guess 90 frames was our target for that. So let's go back up to ultra again. Back up here. We're gonna go to 1080p and see what it takes to get 100 frames per second. Probably won't take too much since it didn't really take that much to go to 90 on 1440. So let's go. Yeah, let's try high here. Let's see what we can change here. I would say let's keep it here. Let's try high and see if we can get up to 100. We should be able to, I think. 1080p high. Which probably isn't going to look any better than 1440p, just simply because it's 1080p. It's half the resolution. So... Alright, so there you go. We hit 101 frames per second. So, now that was just basically the end that bumped it up, but, you know, I wouldn't want to go any lower than that. I mean, the game looked about maybe as good as the 1440 at a whole step higher. So, you know, you don't want it to look any worse than that. So I think we achieved our goal here. You know, you definitely don't want to go below normal on 1440p, and you don't want to go below high on 1080p, I don't think. Even though the game will probably still look okay. I mean, you know, but that's just me. You know, I have my limits. I don't care more about frame rates than I do than graphical fidelity, so I will always say that. Alright, so I think we're ready to move on to the next game. Yeah, I'm happy with the RTX 2070. It's a good card. Really it is. Alright, where's Shadow of the Tomb Raider? Right here. Let's check that out. Yeah, you're really better off running at your native resolution, you know? Yeah, otherwise, really, it's not worth buying this monitor. I mean, if you're going to run your games at 1080p, which is what I've seen with some people in the reviews. So I wasn't sure about why they were doing that. I'm going to turn the in-game volume down because it always plays that music. And that's going to hit me with a copyright. Alright, so we have DirectX 12, 1440. We're not going to do DLSS or RTX right now. VSync off, TAA. Graphics, it's only on 8 times, so we'll put it on 16. Depth of field's off. Ultra, tessellation, bloom off, motion blur off. Well, let's just run it right now with that and these settings here, and we'll see what kind of results we get. If I have to turn this down, I'll turn this one down and see how it looks. Yeah, see TAA, that's the only one it gives us here. I'm very tired, so I'm like trying to stay awake right now. I want to get this done though, so I can get this video. I gotta work on it tomorrow, I guess, for a few hours. because it's in like a million pieces. And, you know, whatever. I went longer. I always do long. The processor's kicking up. Took a little dump there, didn't it? I don't know what's going on. That's my fans for my water cooler. I don't have my cover on the computer, so it's a little louder. Now this benchmark is brutal, though. I mean, it's not really. It doesn't really reflect how you're going to be experiencing the game. That's for sure. I'll try running it at a little bit lower setting, and then maybe put it on like high settings with the textures still turned up and see how that works. I mean, right now I don't really see too much as far as I only see jitters when there's like a drop, really big drop in the frame rates. I'm not sure why it's doing that. I think just because it's going from an area where there's high frame rates to low. Like it's not really adjusting it, it's just, that's just how the benchmark is. So I think once you're in the scene, though, it's smooth, you know, so I think that's artificial. That's not really reflective of what you're going to experience in the game, because you're really just in a zone in the game usually, so you're going to be kind of consistent. Alright, where's the average? That's CPU. Average here is 44 for 1440, so yeah. So let's mess around with the graphics here. Let's put let's put it at the highest, and then turn this thing down to BTAO. And let's motion blur off, bloom off. All this stuff, like shadow. I don't know how much of a difference that makes. I think that's the ones that are off screen, I think. Let's see, I can't see because of this dumb thing. Let me go back and come back. Because they don't give you the, there we go. So, screen space enables reflections that are created by ray marching into the on-screen image. Disable to improve GPU performance. And then screen space contact is generate additional sharp shadows on surfaces close to casters by ray marching into the on-screen image, enabled to improve shadow accuracy. Higher modes are more expensive on GPU. Okay, so we'll just keep that like that is. All these on high. We're not doing ray tracing. Texture quality is high. This 8 times higher quality filtering improves texture quality when viewing at an angle. Lowering quality can improve performance due to lower amount of samples taken. Okay, so we'll keep that 8 times. So, alright, let's see how that works. Let's check it out. So we'll try it on those settings and see if it improves a lot. So it still looked pretty decent during the courtyard. You know, definitely didn't look ugly. Now this is still, the jungle here is still giving a little bit of a problem when loading in, but let's see how it seems to be stable here once you get in the scene at 75 frames per second. So that's pretty good increase, man. And it still looks good. I mean, this doesn't look bad at all to me. I mean, it's clear. You know, it's, I don't see like really crazy jaggedy edges going on. So, you know, you just tweak the settings a little bit. And this thing can really shine, man. And you can play at decent frame rates without tearing, and, you know, everything looks smooth to me. I mean, I'm trying to look all over the place here. You know, every so often you get a little jump for whatever reason. I mean, I'll read up on that to see if there's a way to fix that. I do have the Freesync on expanded. I might need to put it on basic, but from the few places that I found, people were just saying keep it on the expanded or whatever it's called. So I mean, it looks pretty decent. You know, Laura's hair looks a little less fine, but I could probably put on the pure hair, because I don't think that's going to really make a big performance difference. Her hair flopping around. Alright, so at changing those settings to I think it was on the highest, and then turning this to BTAO, we got 85 frames per second average at 1440, so that's pretty fragging good. And we only used 99% of the GPU this time. So, you know, you can kind of play around with things and still get it to look very good. So let's put it on Ultra. You're better at just doing the highest on 1440 and just turning down like this and motion blur and bloom. So I'll put it on Ultra. Let's see, highest there. Let me turn. Why isn't it? How come I won't go to Ultra now? So if you do 16, shadow it high, keep that on there, turn off bloom and motion blur because I just hate those. Go back to, go back to display. This is all good. We'll run it and see what we get as far as we'll see what we get here. Okay. But for some, I'm telling you, you're not going to get, you're better off running at 1440, I know it. This game is difficult though to tell, really, because it's not like Rise of the Tomb Raider. Like, Laura looked more realistic in Rise of the Tomb Raider, in my opinion, and so did her clothes. You know what I mean? So there was just a lot about Rise of the Tomb Raider that was just much better looking. Yeah, I mean it still looks good, but the foliage to me doesn't look as good as it did at 1440. I mean, things look a little more kind of blurryish, sort of. Whereas the 1440, at least from my short memory, everything seemed crispier. Like the plants there, they don't look as good as they did on 1440, so depending on what you're looking at, you know, I think it's gonna vary. I think I would rather be at 1440 because this scene here too doesn't quite look as good. You know, you're getting better frame rates, but I mean 80 frames per second is fine enough for this game. I mean, that's pretty fast. At 1440, you don't really need to be running at 120. And you won't with this card, so I mean, it's just not going to happen. Where I was at before was perfect at 1440, and it looked really good. So like, I don't think these scenes are gonna look a whole lot different, except for maybe the leaves probably look better before. Again, I could just turn the pure hair up in the 1440, and I'm sure her hair would look a lot better. But I mean, it's still kind of funky looking there too, so I guess it doesn't really matter in that particular scene. I mean, it's obviously your choice if you get this monitor, but me, I'll run it at 1440 and have nice looking graphics. So here we get 123 frames per second. I mean, that's pretty good. But I mean, if you look at this right here, system memory. Oh, that's not what I'm looking at here. Oh, never mind. Thought that was something else. Oh, I was only on 8 times too. That was weird. I thought I changed that. So if I turn this up and turn this up now, because that's what I thought it was at. Level of detail. Let's put depth of field to high. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't have it all turned up. I don't know why it didn't change before. So all this stuff should have been on high. Shadow quality on high. Yeah, so that was why it was like not looking that great. So let's see what the frame rates are with those settings. Let's see what happens. See if it takes a hit. Let's see how the foliage looks now. It should look better, I guess. Okay, there's definitely more shadowing going on, I think. But it still looks kind of blurrish in the background. Maybe it could just be all in my head. I don't know. Yeah, this part just definitely looked better, I think, at 1440. I'm sorry I keep repeating myself, but I'm just trying to get a grip on this whole thing. I mean, I'm used to just playing on my 4K monitor, so it's simple. 60 frames, 60 hertz, 4K. Looks beautiful. You know, it runs smooth on my 2080 Ti. you know, I'm running this over and over so that you can see it too, you know, so that if there's anything that you guys notice that I don't notice. But this doesn't look as clear as the 1440. It could be just in my brain. But, you know, the shadowing's there and like all the fancy, you know, kind of effects, but the picture just doesn't look crisp. Maybe I'll run it one more time at 1440 and see if I'm just like imagining. But this definitely doesn't look crisp. It looks blurrish. Has a blur to it. So I definitely think the 1440 is your best bet. So that was a little lower, 110. So 20, what was it, 125 before? Or something. So let's go back, and then we're gonna go forward again. Last time I'll run it. Alright, so let's put this baby on highest. Shadow quality was on high. I'm putting this up to 16. I'll keep this on. Depth of field normal. Level of detail high. Bloom off. Motion blur off. On. Let's check out that pure hair. Oh, it's all that it was already up the highest. So yeah. So there is a little bit of a difference you can see there. I don't really see much of a difference. There just isn't as much in the crevice, so I think it's better to just keep this on. Alright, let's run it at 1440 and see if it looks clear or not. Just wait for it to get into the scene. So, yeah, it's definitely not blurry as blurry. Nope, there's definitely a difference. It's definitely clearer back there. So the 1440 definitely is a better option. At least for jungle. You know, I don't think the courtyard was much of a difference, but yeah, it definitely looks clear. Yeah, definitely better looking. There is a difference. Definitely a difference. Even a difference here. There's, I mean, it's nearly the same, but this is just a little bit clearer. The 1080 was just a little slight kind of blur to everything. This is just a little bit more crisp. At least that's how my eyes are perceiving it. So, you know, do you want higher frame rates or do you want a better looking picture? I mean, I'll take a better looking picture any day. I don't think Laura's hair is going to look any different because it's just kind of yinky. Inky. Got some stringy looking hair there, Laura. But I mean, we're at 80 frames per second, so I mean, Jesus, you can't really complain about that at 1440. So 87 frames per second average. So that's really nice. I mean, that's very good. You know what I mean? Very, very good. So I'm happy with it. And this was at 16 times anisotropic, you know. Shadow quality still on high, depth of field's normal, because I don't care about that a whole lot, but normal's good enough. You know, level of detail high. Probably could have put that on ultra. Went down to like 80, you know. So yeah, it just depends on what you like, you know. I mean, I like better graphics. I don't want no blur. So, there you have it. Because I think the Division was the RX 590 was struggling with that too. So I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. So I don't know, the Division, it's having some problems apparently. It keeps crashing. So, tried it twice, that's all I'm going to try. So they must have a bug in it or something from an update. So I'm in the Division 2 now. So that's where I am. I started my character earlier. So they have a benchmark here, it says, so I think they just added that. So let's see, I think we're going to do Ultra. Apply. Confirm. Then I think I'm going to take off VSync. Frame rate limit. On. Let's put that all the way up to 200. Apply. Shadow quality very high. Spot shadows very on high. Contact all high. Sharpening. Don't really think we need to do that. 10. Let's just put it all the way up. What the heck? Kill the card. Vegetation, that's on high. Depth of field off. Object detail. Let's put that all the way up too. I like everything all the way up. Larger object streaming distances uses more memory on a hard drive, so we'll just keep that there. Vignet, nah, turn that off. Water quality is on high. Good grief. That's all the way up. Terrain, high. High resolution sky textures. Alright, so I don't see any blur. Vsync off, contrast, brightness, graphics. Alright, so apply. Video. Okay, full screen, 1440, 144 Hertz. DirectX 12. Alright, great. Alright, let's run the benchmark and see what happens. Didn't even know it had one. It didn't have it in the beta, so let's see how this kills the card. So I don't know, the 590, man, was just having a ton of problems. Obviously you've seen the video if you've watched it this far. I don't know, man, that thing was just very hot and just, I just didn't like the experience at all. Heater's on. Phew. Oh, that was not cool, dude. So GPU is almost maxed out. I mean, everything looks fairly smooth. The CPU's all over the place, but the GPU is fairly pretty straight line. Game looks pretty good. Running at a steady, like, upper 50s. I hope I can see the end. It's always got to put it over there. So at 1440p, pretty much ultra settings, 60 frames per second. VRAM was 7.8 gigabytes, or I guess that's what, well, I'm not sure, maybe that's just what it's reporting. So, boy, the heater, what is going on with the heater? Alright, so let's try 1080p. Let's see if there really is any difference. That was pretty good though, considering I'm recording and it's a brand new game. So I don't know what the score means. 60 frames per second, pretty good. So let's turn this to 1080. I can tell you already it looks blurry. Alright, so let's try running this thing again. So it's quite a bit, pretty big difference. Maybe. Now this game, I guess because it's outdoors, it doesn't look as blurred. I mean, some things like off in the distance do, and the plane does a little bit, but maybe because it's an outdoors area you can't tell too much because there's such a variation in everything. Yeah, it's definitely not as clear as the 1440. So it's the same as the other situations and the other benchmarks. I mean, if you like the graphics quality, then you want to stick with the 1440. I guess if you're doing, you know, PvP, I guess whatever. You don't have any choice, I guess. But to, you know, it still looks decent. I mean, it's not bad looking, but it's, after seeing the 1440, I mean, you just notice the lower quality, you know. Oh, here, open results. Oh, what happened here? Yeah, so it's 82 frames per second for the 1080. So that's a pretty big jump. Let's put it here. So 1440/60 and 1080 is 82. So it's 22 frames per second difference. So this game, you know, it might be worth it to I would rather, let's go back to the game. I think I would rather go ahead and tweak to 1440 and see if I can get it up to near 80 frames per second and still look good. So let's see if we can do that, because I still think it's going to take that blurriness away. Again, because you're playing at the native resolution. So graphics. Alright, so how are we going to do this now? What should we kill or lower? Just put it on high. Let's see. Let's try high. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay, so I don't know really what changed, but Vsync off. Frame rate limit, I don't really know if that changes anything. Put that up. So what do we have here? Resolution scale. Sharpening went down to 7. Particle detail, they kept it at ultra. That's interesting. Reflection quality. I guess that could be turned down. Vegetation, I do like the vegetation. Okay, the filtering went down. So I don't know how that's going to affect things. Depth of field, we're going to shut that off again. Object detail. I think I had that all the way up last time, right? So let's turn that up to, like, say, 60. Turn this up to 6. Okay, so that's so pretty much the only things that got turned down was this thing and this thing and this thing. Vegetation's up. Reflection quality, I mean, I don't really know how much that changes. Let's see. Let's put that on high. And sharpening went down. So let's see what kind of why is Vsync back on? Oh, because of the frame limit, I guess. I'm just gonna keep that off. Let's see what happens when we keep it off. Alright, so here we go. Let's see. There it is. So let's try this again. Let's see if there's a difference. Let's see if we can get it to go higher than 60. And still look good. I'm actually looking at the monitor. Yeah, the plane is not as blurry, and those buildings back there are definitely not as blurry as the 1080, so it is clear. So, yeah, I think this still looks better than running at 1080. Let's see what kind of frame rates we're getting here then. I mean, it doesn't look as good as I think it was on the maximum settings, but it still definitely doesn't have that blur to it like the 1080 does. Still crispier. Even though there might be some, like, I guess, slight jaggedy things are just subtly more jaggedy, but not really, like, annoying or anything like that. Yeah, definitely better. I think I would rather do it with this resolution. Look at that. Ooh, 86 frames per second. Wow. And I could probably tweak that to make it even look a little better. Wow, what a difference. Just turning it down and then tweaking the settings. That's how you do it. Man, that's awesome. 86 frames per second at 1440. Ooh, baby. Haha. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you have it then. So you got the, I don't know if this tells you the monitor. Just says LG QHD. Let me get out of the game here. So LG UltraGear gaming monitor, 32GK650F, and I'll put that in the well, you already know that by the time you hear me say that. So look at the score, 7,705. It went up from 5,200 something. So not bad. Let me see. I wonder if you can see the difference when you change these settings here. So I wonder what. So sharpening's up to 10. Reflections. I wonder how much of a hit this takes. Something tells me that's not really going to make it take much of a hit. I think the rendering distance, object detail. That looks good. Shall we try it one more time? Alright, so I just tweaked it a little bit more. So let's see if we can still keep it near 80. Or around 80. So this will be the last run. And then I think I'm finished with this situation. I had the volume turned down. I mean, I guess things look a little better. That's not blurry, the background's not blurry there. The draw distance, you can see the stuff pop in as you kind of move around. So VSync is not on right now, so you might see some kind of tearing. It's running like 78, 80. Yeah, it looks good. '77, '74, '73. Yeah, I think things look a little bit better. Tweaking it a little bit more. 84 frames per second. So see, I still got some room to play with some of those settings. So, pretty good, man. Pretty freaking good. So let me just get back to the main screen here. And then, yeah, so I can still play with this even more. 7,533. There you go. Alright, guys and girls and others. LG UltraGear, man, I'd say it's definitely worth a buy. The RX 590, I would definitely say skip it. Get a NVIDIA 1660 or 1660 Ti, or a Vega 56 if you can get it cheap enough, or an RTX 2060. You know, if you need a lower end card. The 2060 is probably the best deal. If you don't really want RTX, then definitely the 1660 Ti is a pretty good deal, I think. But yeah, that Powercolor RX 590, steer clear of that thing. The Red Devil. Alright, well anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for putting up with me, thanks for sticking with me this long. You know, I like to do these things long because I want you to see what I'm doing. I don't want you to just look at charts, just take my word for it, you know. Plus I wanted you to see too the monitor and how it looks, and you know, the picture and all that junk. So if you're going to make a purchase, you can see for yourself rather than just me saying, oh, this is a great monitor, yeah, here's a couple short little clippies. Yep. Alright, bye, love y'all. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you know, check out my links on my YouTube page. Alright, peace, good night.